for You founder who donated £500,000 to the Conservatives before the last election, and he joins us now. John, thanks so much for coming on the programme. Did you hear the clip there of what the Prime Minister has just been saying on a hospital visit?
I did, and there's one thing for sure: he's in a very precarious position, isn't he? But regardless of what's going on in the current shenanigans now, the real crux of the matter is what this independent investigation, the conclusion it comes up with. Although it's quite an interesting point that your previous commentator makes, that
Charlotte,
nobody can see into his soul, and did he really believe it was a party? But would I want a prime minister that couldn't read things like that? Probably not. I've always been a big Boris supporter because he's been able to get jobs done, and I did think he could be very, very good for the country. I'm very sad about this situation, actually, but I think he's in a very difficult position that may well become completely untenable.
A difficult situation, perhaps of his own making, and even if Sue Gray can't draw a direct, evidential line between the Prime Minister and the party, surely it's the damage to his credibility that must be most worrying for people like you who have been supporters and who must now think, well, as you've just said, you walk into the Downing Street Garden, there's scores of people there, there's tables loaded with booze and snacks, and your fiance's there with a couple of her mates, and you still don't think it's a party, it's a work meeting.
It's bizarre, but that does just smack of trying to wriggle out of it, doesn't it? But the other part of this anyway, and I certainly don't want to damn our Prime Minister. We need stability in this country, we need drive forward, but by the same token, we do need a leader that's got a good moral compass, has got ethics and strong leadership. Now, if he's guilty, then that's that he's morally wrong. And if he's not guilty, then how the hell has he got control of all those people? Where's the control if all those people are able to have parties in his back garden and he doesn't know about it or doesn't consider it to be a party? So it doesn't look great either way from my perspective.
Yeah, you've previously called for the Prime Minister to sort it out or step aside, but as what you've just described there is having reached the end of the line on this continuing situation, this continuing scenario, because it's hard to see a route out.
Have a habit of being able to wriggle through these things, don't they? And so I wouldn't write Boris off yet. But what he certainly has to do, if he does stay in power, he needs to clean up these aspects of the Conservative Party and make darn certain that everything is morally and ethically correct and no more Owen Paterson fiascos. He needs to get a grip of the people and have really stringent rules that keep the party absolutely on the correct line.
But who's going to listen to him and who's going to lend him any credibility if he starts making hard and fast rules? Because his own track record is so flawed now. Do you think a party led by Boris Johnson could win an election? I think there's 40% of people thinking that he, and these are Conservative Party supporters, that he should resign. That this is untenable.
Yeah, well, definitely not at this moment in time. He couldn't win an election, I don't think, although you have to look at what credible opponents there are to take the government. But I don't think he could win an election at the moment. But there's a lot of water under the bridge between now and the election. There's a lot of ability for COVID to rescind into a much lesser endemic instead of the current pandemic, and people to have a feel-good factor. And then if he can get the economy right, which is another massive challenge in its own right, but if he can get the economy right, then people would turn back to him. And, people have a short memory, and this would all become yesterday's news.
Indeed, though April doesn't sound like it's going to have much of a feel-good factor about it for many people with energy bills and so on. I wonder, you mentioned, who would succeed. Who would you like to see as Boris Johnson's successor?
Well, I don't want to see all that distraction at the moment. If we had to have that distraction, I don't really know. I'm not. I think Jeremy Hunt perhaps could be a good guy. Rishi Sunak might do a good job, and Liz Truss might. So all the obvious candidates that other people would speak about as well. But have I got absolute confidence that they are the right people to lead the Conservative Party? No, I've not. That would have to come out in the wash.
And what will convince you that Boris Johnson didn't know that this latest party was a party?
I'm not sure I could be 100% convinced at all. But I do believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt. You know, that's what the courts are all about. It's what the legal system's all about. If it's not proven within reasonable doubt, you give people the benefit of the doubt. And I would be prepared to give Boris the benefit of that doubt, which he's entitled to. But it's very, very precarious, very untenable. And I think the difficulty is, as you've suggested, who will listen to him. He'd have to reassert his authority and get a real grip on the party again. And it's an uphill battle then to the next election with the upwind struggles that we've got against both COVID and the economy.
Mm. Will you be giving the Conservative Party any more money in the near future?
I've never been a donor of the party. That was a one-off donation that I made because I felt the Corbyn-McDonnell government would be a catastrophe for Britain. I thought it would really, really damage the economic future of Britain, and they wouldn't get Brexit done. So I desperately needed a Tory government at that time. I'm not typically a donor to any party, but I would consider donating again to a party that I really believe could keep the great in Great Britain.
But that's not the Conservatives at the moment?
Not at the moment, it isn't.
John Caudwell, thank you so much for joining us.